For centuries, humanity looked upon the brightest fruit on earth and saw the face of the devil. They called it the poison apple, a deceitful ornament of the nightshade family, born to rot on the vine and curse those foolish enough to taste its flesh. Europe's elite were convinced that eating it would melt their silver tableware, curdle their blood, and summon demons. Yet this very plant had already survived empires, conquered the New World, and waited patiently in the dirt. This is the hidden history of the tomato, a wild Andean weed that defied fear, shattered European feudalism, and quietly colonized the global kitchen.
Long before the dawn of agriculture, kings, and currency, the ancestor of the tomato grew wild and uninvited along the harsh, frost-bitten slopes of the Andes. They were nothing like the plump, sweet giants we know today. These prehistoric ancestors were tiny, tart, and heavily defended by bitter chemical compounds designed to ward off hungry predators. Nature, however, wanted them eaten. Birds and small mammals swallowed the tiny fruits whole, carrying their indestructible seeds across vast mountain ranges and planting the future of global cuisine. For millennia, humans passed them by as mere scrub weeds. But everything changed when wandering gatherers realized these resilient little vines could be coaxed, tamed, and forced to grow closer to home. Through generations of careful, patient selection, ancient hands performed a quiet miracle, stripping away the bitterness, softening the skin, and waking up the hidden giant within the vine.
Deep in the heart of Mesoamerica, the Aztec Empire embraced the plant, cultivating it on their ingenious floating gardens known as chinampas across the shimmering waters of Lake Texcoco. They called them shitomatl, the fat fruit with a navel. They were no longer wild curiosities. They were the vibrant bedrock of an entirely new culinary landscape. In the sensory overload of the bustling Aztec plazas, the tomato found its ultimate soulmate, the fiery, snapping bite of the chili pepper. Here, on volcanic grinding stones, the very first salsas were born. Ground together with salt, wild herbs, and fiery heat, the tomato ceased to be just a fruit and became an obsession. It flavored the stews of kings, enriched the daily life of commoners, and sat quietly at the center of a flourishing, sophisticated civilization, completely unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon.
Then, in the early 1500s, the old world crashed violently into the new. Conquistadors arrived seeking gold, silver, and empire, completely blind to the true treasure growing in the dirt. Hernan Cortés and his men plundered the Aztec capital, destroying temples and dismantling an empire. But hidden away among their loot of gold and feathers were small, unassuming bags of tomato seeds. In the belly of a wooden galleon crossing the terrifying expanse of the Atlantic, the humble Aztec berry began its long, improbable journey toward global domination. When the ships docked in Seville, the tomato had arrived in Europe. But instead of being celebrated as a culinary marvel, it walked straight into a waking nightmare of superstition. Europeans stared at the strange, bright fruit with profound suspicion. Its lush, sprawling green leaves looked identical to the deadly nightshades that lined the dark, forbidding forests of medieval myth.
Botanists classified it alongside mandrake and deadly nightshade. They whispered that the plant was brewed by witches, capable of driving men mad and bringing a swift, agonizing death to anyone foolish enough to take a bite. For over 2 centuries across Northern Europe, the tomato was strictly an ornamental curiosity.
It sat in palace gardens as a freak of nature, admired for its strange beauty, but strictly forbidden from ever touching a dinner plate. Yet, hunger has a way of curing superstition. Down in the sun-drenched coastal villages of Italy and Spain, the poorest laborers, who had nothing left to lose, dared to take a bite.
To their absolute shock, they didn't die. Instead, they discovered something miraculous. A burst of savory umami, bright acidity, and sun-ripened sweetness that transformed dry bread into a feast. Word spread quietly through the back alleys and coastal markets. The rich elite might have feared the devil's pome, but the common people of Southern Europe had just unlocked the secret engine of modern flavor. From humble backyard gardens, the tomato slipped silently into the cooking pots of Naples, setting the stage for a revolution that would change human eating habits forever. In the chaotic, crowded slums of 18th century Naples, the working poor needed cheap, fast, portable nutrition to survive grueling 12-hour workdays. Enter the pizza's humble ancestor, a crude flatbread born of sheer necessity. It was looked down upon by the wealthy as disgusting peasant garbage, fit only for the gutter. But when the despised New World tomato met the simple Neapolitan flatbread for the very first time, something magical happened. The acid of the fruit cut through the heavy fats, elevating humble dough into high art. For generations, pizza remained an invisible street food, eaten exclusively by the desperate poor in the shadows of majestic palaces. Until 1889, when Queen Margherita of Savoy, growing desperately tired of heavy, complicated French banquets during a royal visit to Naples, demanded to try the infamous local street food. Enter Raphael Esposito, the master pizzaiolo summoned to the royal palace. Terrified yet inspired, he baked 3 distinct creations for the monarch. The third pizza was a masterpiece of political and culinary genius, topped with bright red tomatoes, snowy white mozzarella, and fresh green basil, mirroring the exact colors of the Italian flag. The queen fell completely in love with it. By naming it Pizza Margherita, royalty legitimized the humble fruit of the poor, transforming the despised devil's pome into the undisputed culinary queen of the world. As millions of Italian immigrants packed their bags and boarded steamships bound for America, they carried 2 things across the ocean in their hearts: their culture and seeds of the tomato. When Lombardi opened America's first licensed pizzeria in New York in 1905, the tomato officially planted its flag in the New World, transitioning from feared poison to the beating heart of American comfort food. Yet, just as the tomato conquered the world, corporate agriculture and mass production threatened to strip away its soul, turning a living, breathing heirloom into a lifeless industrial commodity.
By the late 20th century, agricultural scientists committed a quiet crime against taste. In the pursuit of profit, shipping durability, and flawless, uniform appearance, they bred the soul right out of the tomato. They traded natural flavor, heirloom genetics, and juicy sweetness for a thick, rubbery skin that could survive being crushed by a freight train. They gave us a red piece of plastic disguised as food. The ancient diversity of the Andes and the vibrant heirloom varieties of Italy were pushed to the absolute brink of extinction, replaced by sterile corporate patents and lifeless factory cloning.
It seemed like the industrial food complex had finally won, that the wild, rebellious spirit of the tomato had been permanently domesticated, sterilized, and packaged for supermarket aisles. But nature refuses to be caged.
Deep in underground seed banks, backyard gardens, and rebellious kitchens, a quiet resistance was already brewing to take back the flavor.
Across the globe, seed guardians, passionate chefs, and backyard rebels launched a counter-revolution. They scoured remote mountain villages to hunt down and rescue vanishing heirloom varieties from total extinction. They traded concrete for compost, reclaiming urban rooftops, community gardens, and suburban backyards to grow food that actually tasted like the earth it came from. Top chefs threw out tasteless industrial clones, demanding hyper-local, vine-ripened heritage varieties that told a story with every single bite. The tomato had won its freedom. It shook off the superstitions of the Dark Ages, survived the greed of industrial agriculture, and reclaimed its rightful throne as the king of global cuisine. From a bitter wild weed clinging to an Andean cliff, to a feared devil's pome in European shadows, to the soul of the modern kitchen, the tomato conquered fear, feudalism, and factory farms, proving that true flavor can never truly be legislated away.
Today, the tomato is the ultimate global citizen. It bridges cultures, transforms cuisines, and anchors flavor systems from the street stalls of Tokyo to the trattorias of Rome. It fuels the fiery street food of Mumbai, flavors the tagines of North Africa, and binds together the comforting stews of Latin America and the Caribbean. It is the great culinary equalizer, a humble seed that started as a wild Andean weed and grew into the common thread connecting the human dinner table across every border on Earth. The devil's pome had conquered the world, not with poison or sword, but with the irresistible, everlasting magic of flavor.